Hey guys, welcome back to Medical Coding with Blue. Today's episode is all about a demonstration of the ICD-10-CM Expert for Physicians book. If you are brand new to my channel, welcome. I am Blue. I'm a medical coder. All right. So I will start off by saying this. There are many different types of publishers for the ICD-10-CM book, right? And each one of them has their own pluses. Each one of them has their own little things that makes their book special. For me, I really prefer the Optum 360 coding books, and you may have heard me. If you've been with my channel for a while, you guys know how freaked out I get about books. I love books. I'm a huge book lover. And when it comes to what I find with Optum 360 coding books, I find they are the most comprehensive. Now, this is not an ad, but it is just telling you what I prefer. If you are going with a different kind of book, that is totally fine. It is completely up to you. I am just demonstrating with what I have today. And yes, this is the 2020 version. It'll tell you in the front what version it is. This is a 2020 version. I just happen to have my current book at the office. Okay, so since I film these at home, I'm using what I have at home, which is the 2020 version. But it's still going to give you a good idea of how to navigate the book. It's still going to tell you about, well, I'm going to tell you guys about the little features this book has, because a lot of times, you may get this book and you may think, oh my gosh, this is intimidating. It's so huge. It's this big spiral book. It's very heavy. Yes, but this is what we have to work with. This is our life. So let us begin. All right. I will start off by saying this. You guys know I am a huge advocate for the guidelines, reading the guidelines. But to show you guys, this is the table of contents. It's going to give you all the chapters broken down by specialty. It's going to tell you about the appendixes, and we're going to go into some of that. I'm also going to show you guys how to look up a couple of codes so that way you guys can kind of get an idea and know what I'm saying when I tell you guys to look back at the beginning of the chapter when you are looking up codes to kind of help you. So we're just going to go ahead and flip through some of this. It's telling you here how to use the ICD-10-CM manual. It's actually giving you instructions on how to use it and what's the best way to make use of this book. So it's written down here. It's got it very broken down in detail, which is wonderful, I think. And then it'll tell you what's new for the current year of this book, which was in 2020. And so it's breaking down everything that's new. 15 codes changed in validity, and then it's got a whole new list of codes added to the classifications. So a lot of your changes will be up in the front, okay, if you're using these kinds of books. And then it has the conversion table of ICD-10-CM codes. So it'll tell you what the code assignment was at the beginning of 2019, October of 2019, and then what the previous code assignment was. So it's giving you like a breakdown. So that way, if a code is coming up as invalid or something, you can look at this really quickly and just sort of kind of figure out why. Okay, so another good feature of this book. 10 steps to correct coding, which I do recommend that you guys read because it is very helpful for any new medical coder as well as veteran medical coders, because sometimes we even have to have refreshers too, and there's nothing wrong with it. Okay, even I go through refreshers from time to time. So this is a good thing to read up on. Here are your guidelines. Your guidelines for the official guidelines for coding and reporting are all right here. If you get this particular book, it is 32 pages, okay? You can also find these guidelines on the CMS website at cms.gov. It will give you the latest and most up-to-date coding guidelines that you can review for yourself. It's going to show that there's like 100+ pages on there, but only because of the font size and it's a little different, that kind of thing. But these are all your coding guidelines. Now, I do recommend, especially if you're in school, you guys got to read these, because these guidelines are really going to help you to know and to understand the fundamentals of coding. While it may not make sense to you while you're reading it, once you start getting in the trenches, you're really going to start understanding what I mean. So before you find yourself out in the weeds, start reading these and be very diligent about it. Even if you have to read 10 pages per day so that you can get through in a week, just start off reading 10 pages and then go from there. Okay, so that is always my advice, because a lot of people will ask me, Blue, how do I start? Where do I go? And what do I do? This is my advice, guys. It's the heavy lifting. And to me, I'm old school, and I'm going to teach y'all the way that I learned. And the way that I learned has served me well. I've trained many of people with the way that I've learned, and it's helped them. So again, it's entirely up to you. But I would start here and go on. So yes, that is what I recommend. Now, we have our index. Now, they always tell you whenever you start to learn about medical coding is that you never, ever take from the index. And it is true, my people, because a lot of times when you see the code here and you think, oh, it's a complete code, I can just take it and code it from here and move on. Wrong, because there may be a instructional note in the tabular section to help you to either get a more specific code or add on something else that you may not have thought of, or it may not have registered that you need to add on a different code. So because of this, this is why you guys have to really make sure that you are looking it up in the index and then referencing back to the tabular section. And I'm going to do a couple of demonstrations in a little bit, but I just kind of want to say that first, because that is something that especially coders in the beginning tend to do. They just tend to just sort of take the code here at face value and move on. And that's wrong. Okay, you never want to get into that habit. Okay, so these are all of your diagnosis codes. And it goes on for quite a ways, because you guys got to think this stuff has to be really detailed, right? So then I wanted to show you guys this other part of the index. Okay, this is the Neoplasm Table. Okay, now what is the Neoplasm Table? Let's see if I can I scooch this in? Yes, without it. All right, I did it. This is the Neoplasm Table, right? And it'll tell you right here, neoplasm, and then it starts with abdomen, and then neoplasm, bile of the bile or biliary. So what this is whenever you have your neoplasms, right, you're looking up your cancer codes, right? This is exactly where you're going to find them, because it's going to tell you, like here at the top, let's see if I can move this down. Okay, here we go. It'll tell you your malignant primary, malignant secondary, carcinoma in situ, benign, uncertain behavior, and uncertain behavior and unspecified behavior. When it comes to coding cancer codes, you really want to make sure that you're capturing everything. And if there is something unspecified, you need to look and see if it's somewhere in the documentation that it is specified, okay? So you have to really be on the close lookout for that, because you should rarely be using these codes, okay? If you can possibly help it, you need to make sure that you're really looking to make sure that you understand the language, number one, and number two, that you are sending queries if you need to, or if you're looking in the proper reports, like the pathology reports, okay, and that kind of thing. Just make sure that you're looking at what you need to be looking at in order to get the most specific codes, okay? So it's telling you that this column, it would be all these malignant primary codes. This would be if it was malignant secondary. This would be if it was specified as carcinoma in situ. So these are all of it's just broken down, really streamlined and easy. So that way you don't have to go into this part of the index. You're just going to go into a specific table, and this is the Neoplasm Table. So be sure to take advantage of this, especially if you're doing oncology coding. And guys, let me tell you, oncology coding is a trip, and it is a very specialized specialty. That was the very first specialty that I ever had. And I'll tell you, it helped me to learn a lot. I learned a lot in my time coding oncology in the beginning. But I'll tell you what, guys, that is very, very specific, and it takes a lot of concentration, and you've got to make sure that you're paying attention to those details. So this is where you would be working if you're doing a lot of oncology coding. All right. And so this goes on for quite a bit. And then we have the table of drugs and chemicals, which is next. So this table of chemicals and stuff is all about, here we go, like your poisonings and things like that, whether it's poisoning, accidental or intentional, or assault, or undetermined, or the adverse effect code, or underdosing. So here's all of those specific categories that it's in, just different things. Everything's listed here, so that way you guys can see it, and then you can reference it if it is that particular thing that they were poisoned by. Then you can look, oh, okay, well, here we go, here's the code. And so then you can flip back to make sure in the tabular section that there isn't anything else that you need to add on. Okay, no other code. Okay, so I'm trying to do this very carefully and not make you guys dizzy with zooming in and out. All right, so that is that. So if you're looking up something, then you know you need to look here, okay, when you're working with like poisonings and things like that. All right, and then we have possibly one of my most favorite sections, the external causes. So when you are coding for injuries, now a lot of people do not like coding for injuries, but guys, injuries is so much fun. When you think about all of these specific codes that they have for just different things that can happen to people, it's very fascinating and it's very interesting. So really take the time to get familiar with this section, so that way you can really start to think about all those things that could possibly be there, and you can know that there's actually a code for that. Did you know there was a code for bitten by a cow? Which I thought was a funny one. Or struck by a snail. Struck by a snail is probably one of my favorite ones. But when I first heard it, I said to myself, really? Struck by a snail? Well, when you think about it, if you're mowing the grass, you can get struck by a snail, right? And so that's one of those, because like you have to be thinking, like, how slow is a person going if they're being struck by a snail? But it's actually if they're like on a riding lawnmower and they got hit, you know, or maybe they were just walking and they got hit because somebody else was mowing the grass. I don't know. To me, the nerd is delighted whenever I see something like that. So that is one of the things that you can find by looking in this section here. There's also your very specific motor vehicle accidents. Sometimes people are in ATV accidents, which is common a lot in the spring because people are out on their ATVs. That's one of those ones, or a bicycle, or roller skates, or inline skates, and all those kinds of things. So be sure to look here whenever you are coding for injuries, okay? So this is your external causes index, all right? So then we flip over to, dun, 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 dun. We flip over to the beginning of the tabular section. So this is the ICD-10-CM tabular list of diseases and injuries. So what I love, and guys, this is why I love Optum360. I should like totally let them know how much I love their products, right? But at the beginning of every chapter, and they do this. Now, I don't know if other publishers do this. I haven't seen any other books that, you know, would grab my attention or anything like that. So, but at the beginning of every single chapter, they do this. They will put you know, a type of scenario here, and then they'll give you an example of how to apply those codes or what codes apply there and that kind of thing. And it'll break down like all of their reasoning why, and part of the guidelines, and telling you like what to look at and what to look for and that kind of thing. That's why I love these books, because they're so detailed. And a lot of times people don't know the different details. Like I said, I don't know the details of other publishers. All I know is that when I had my first experience being a coder and I got hold of these books, I was like, I really love it. So that's why I always share it with you guys. And right now on the Optum360 Coding website, their books are on sale. The 2021 versions are on sale. They were 60% off. So if you are looking to study, or if you are looking to take your exam later in the year and you need to get the 2021 books, now is the time to get them because they're on sale. So like I said, just check it out. And I will leave the link for the Optum 360 coding website in the description box of this video. So that way you guys can check it out. And to get to it, you would have to go to, I think it's medical coding specialties box. And then it's down to the best deals. Okay, so you have to click the drop down box. It's in the middle. You can't miss it. And then, you know, it'll be right there. It'll lead you right to the page with all the books that are on sale. So it's very exciting. I have to keep myself off of there because the last time I did get quite a few books. So, but it's a good thing. So anyway, yes, so they do this at the beginning of every single chapter, which has helped me to better understand some of these things, because sometimes it does help when you do see these things written out in a type of example. Okay, so they do wonderful examples. Like this one is for neoplasms, a chapter on neoplasms, and it's got two whole pages of examples, right? And so again, if you are struggling with a particular subject and you come across a book like this, you know, it's designed to help you. And this is what I keep telling you guys. These books are really not meant to be written in. A lot of people will ask me, Blue, how do you write your notes in your books? And what do you write in there? And how do you tab it? These books are designed to give you the answers. You don't have to add anything to them because they have the answers already. So that's why I don't recommend all this kerfuffle of notes and highlights and tabs and all this other stuff. I don't recommend that, because if you're working with the book is going to lead you to where you need to go, right? And when you're looking at these things. And I'm going to talk about what these little red letters mean here too in a bit. But I did want to go over that part with you guys just so that you guys can see. And it's really amazing. All the information that this book has, and you can actually just sit and read and look at all of these codes and these guidelines and everything, and it's going to better help you to understand what's actually happening in this book and how to better use the book. So getting through all of that, we have our injury section, which is a huge section, which is one of my personal favorites because, as you all know, or if you don't know and you're brand new, I am an orthopedics coder. So I spend quite a bit of time in the injury section because we see quite a bit of injuries, and that's just what happens, you know. And one other thing I wanted to talk about too is that sometimes when you are coding and you see a code and it doesn't quite specifically say what it is that you're trying to look for, like punched a wall, it'll say walked into wall. That is the official title of the code, but it doesn't mean that that's not what happened, right? Because if you look it up in the index, it'll say, you can say striking a wall, punching a wall, and then you'll come up with that walked into wall code. So that is just something that you'll recognize after a while, that it may not always make sense, but that's why you have to verify in the index and then come over to the tabular just to make sure that everything's good. Okay, so as long as you're good, then you're good. Okay, so, and then we have this other chapter with the Z codes and everything that's going to tie out the end of the book. But here we go on the appendixes again. The appendixes are your friends, guys. I mean, truly, because it is going to help you to really get that extra detail in there. And this one is just Appendix A is the valid 3-character ICD-10-CM codes, and there are some codes that are just 3 characters. So that way you know if the code is complete or incomplete. If you are like confused about, you know, what if it is true or not, that it's only 3 letters, so, or 3 characters. So there you go, a whole list. And then you have Appendix B. And it's without even further explanation. You guys can see it. It's all there. And it's going to tell you the breakdown and what it is and the type and the classification. Okay, so that way you guys can check that out. You see, you don't even need a pharmacology book. A lot of people will ask me, what is your favorite pharmacology book? Is actually in the book itself. Because all of the information that you need is typically here. Again, this is the one for the Z codes in Appendix C. So, and then we have the Appendix D has the Z codes that are principal or first listed diagnoses. So this is a whole list of those codes that are principal or first listed only diagnoses. So when you have something like, let's see what, Z01818 is a preoperative examination. Okay, so that means whenever the patient is there to be seen for a pre-op, for a surgery, right? That code is going to go first, followed by what else is what they're being seen for. So if we look up Z01818, let's just do that right now, so that way you guys can get an example. Z0 was it Z0818? Wait, no. Hold on. Okay, here we go. Right here. And it says Z01818, right? Encounter for other pre-procedural examination. Encounter for pre-procedural examination not otherwise specified. And it also covers encounter for examinations prior to anti-neoplastic chemotherapy. Okay, so that is very important. So if they're coming in for a pre-op, here's your code right here. But if we look right up here at the beginning of the classification, right, it says Z01.8, right, encounter for other specified examinations. And then it says a tip here in the book. See if I can creep forward. Can I creep forward? Yep, I sure can. All right, it says tip. Assign a code for a condition necessitating surgery and any findings as additional diagnoses. So we know when we see this code here, this Z01818, that we got to code an additional code for whatever they're going to have their surgery for, right? And then any other additional diagnoses that they may be being seen for as well. So that is where those little notes come into play. So looking back into the beginning of the chapter, right, at the beginning of the section, you're going to be able to see little notes like that that will tip you off to other things that you need to look at or you need to pick up. Okay, so it's just something that you guys will learn once you start picking up little tips from the book itself. All right, so then we have, okay, so we did that. And then here we have the Appendix E is the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services hierarchical. There we go. I did it. Okay. Condition categories, the HCCs, right? The CMS HCCs. So here's all of the information about that. And then the documentation requirements are also here. So it's breaking down everything. So that way you guys, if you ever hear this, that they're looking for like an HCC coder, this is a section you want to look at so that you can truly understand like what's happening there. Okay. Appendix F is the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services Quality Payment Program. Okay, so this is also giving you more information. And here it's also following up about the rest of the HCC stuff, like about the audits and things like that. So lots of valuable information in these appendixes. Okay, and then we have our beautiful illustrations. For those of you that are getting hung up on the what is it? On the anatomy stuff and things like that, this section is designed to help you. Okay, so you want to look at this section back here to make sure that you are getting all that information like you need to. Okay, so anything that will help you, it's going to be all written right there. All right, so guys, I am almost out of time, but I wanted to go ahead and do a little code lookup with you guys really quick. But yeah, the rest of that was just all of the anatomy stuff. So we're going to look up diabetes so that way I can show you guys how to look up a code in the book. So here we go. I'm going to go to diabetes. right? And if the person is a type 2 diabetic, okay, we're going to go to the section that says type. So this is where diabetes starts, right here, right? And then we're going to go to where it says type 2. So we're going to skip over all this stuff here because it's a big section, okay? And then we're going to go to where it says, see here, type 1. We don't want that. We want type 2. So if we see right here at the beginning, this is a type 2 diabetic code. And not looking up anything else, but just this E11.9. So if we flip back here to E11.9, E11.9, here we go. Diabetes, mellitus without complications, okay? But let's go up to the beginning of the section of E11. Here we go. And it says right here. So when we find the code, yes, we found the code, E11.9. Okay, great. So we need to see if there's any other instructional notes. So we go back to the beginning of the section, and then we'll see it says right here, use an additional code to identify control using insulin or an oral anti-diabetic or an oral hypoglycemic. So the codes are right here. So you can flip straight to that code if the provider has documented that the patient is on insulin. You can go straight back to Z79.4. And there you have the second Z79.4. Z79. Da, 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 da. Bingo, right there. So long-term use. Tip, when, and it says right here, when both long-term use insulin and long-term use oral hypoglycemic is documented, assign only a code for the long-term insulin use. So that is something to know because sometimes patients are on both a pill and the insulin. So you know if they are and they're type 2 diabetic, that is the rule to follow there. So again, it's very helpful and is going to lead you to better correct coding when you're using the book. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up, but thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to be doing some more, so never fear. And, you know, I'll do some more where it's more concentrated on looking up diagnoses, but I did want to give you guys a whole review of the book while I did that. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up, but thank you so much for joining me, and I will see y'all on the next video. Please like, subscribe, and share. Bye!